record on. And it's nice to see all your faces. And particularly, I want to say hello to Eric Colgrove.
Hi.
I almost didn't recognize you there for a moment. Lost a lot of years there. I was wondering, is that the young Dr. Colgrove or what? And
Yeah,
maybe you could share with us for a few moments the experience, or what are some of your thoughts?
sure. I had a wonderful month in Kenya. My wife is Kenyan. She grew up in Kenya and she goes back periodically, but I've never been to Africa. So I was fortunate enough to spend a month with her. And it was great because it was not the typical experience I have of vacationing, which is like, doing the tourist stuff, the hotels and all that. Well, this whole time was filled with family time, but also it was such a time of uh, well, it was a diverse array of different places that we stayed. We stayed in two different villages and medium-sized cities in Nairobi, and just loved everything about it, but especially being in the villages. And yeah, it was especially in the villages. It was um, a lot of simple eating, which is really great to see that sort of very back to basic eating. Which all this work with this group is for me has been. It was made it much easier. I didn't need to worry about getting all my meat and dairy and all that kind of stuff. It just is basic. They grow their vegetables and fruits and just that I realized, that people really can live very simply and very happily. And that's not just the food, it's also material things in general. People can be very happy with just very simple things. They don't need all the things, the trappings of the world. So I love that aspect of it. Just being with a family, living simply. I gotta tell you one thing about being in Nairobi. We were in a couple different neighborhoods. One, we were actually living in an area that was quite poor, and we went to the grocery store and everyone was shopping and normal looking. I would definitely stood out like a sore thumb because I was the only non-African that was in this grocery store. But and then it's true of a lot of countries, is that it's not very diverse. You miss your diversity in the United States. Even Oregon is much more diverse than Africa or whatever. I mean, there are parts of Nairobi, of course, that has a lot more diversity. But anyways, let me get back on my point, which was that when we entered a more wealthy part of the town and went shopping there, suddenly you saw obesity. There was the parents, the kids. You started seeing obesity, and definitely experienced that with just the wealthier part of town. This is part of town that has a lot more, where people have significant increased standard of living, middle class folks, as opposed to people that are struggling and don't have the money to afford a more standard American diet type stuff. What's that? Oh, and walking, yeah, and just exercise. People in Kenya are just constantly on the roads walking everywhere. There's a constant flow of people walking and moving. There's a lot of people don't have cars and transportation, so there is a lot of, not only is it dietary, but certainly it's about exercise, no doubt. So anyways, that was just an interesting observation.
Well, I knew you'd be excited to share something about your trip, and we appreciate that. The concept of increasing wealth and affluence leads to obesity and ill health. And you had a stark example of that, it sounds like.
Yeah, really fascinating. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll be interested to hear more as time goes on from you.
Well, it's great to be back. Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Yeah, welcome back. So let's hear from any other the class members. I'll kind of put this view back on. I gotta kind of see what the gallery looks like here instead of the speaker view. And we've got a few people here. And I recognize most all of your names. I don't see anybody who's new, but if there is someone who's new and I didn't recognize it, maybe you could unmute and say hello and say how you found out about the classes. Seems like most of you are not brand new. You've been to at least one or two classes, so that sounds good. Anybody have anything to offer about what's been going on in their life? They're feeling good, they're feeling bad, they're having a trouble, they're not having trouble. Anybody care to share anything?
I have a testimonial.
Okay, Ken, we're ready for it.
So I got NASH, like it's almost an epidemic in America, and it's
Yes.
fatty liver disease. And NASH means non-alcoholic origin heart disease.
Liver disease. Liver disease.
Liver disease. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm getting old, and my brain
Steatohepatitis is what it is.
okay.
Non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. We'll help you out. It's okay.
So I've been neutral on that for a long time. The damage, the liver is so interesting. It can, if you take half of it out and give it to somebody, both of them will repair themselves. But if you get damage, physical damage in your liver, like by NASH, then that will not be repaired. But Dr. DeLee, he's a wonderful person. He was just so impressed today of how different I look than I did 6 months ago. And he said, you know, I don't want you to get it. I don't want you to get any lower on your BMI. You're perfect. And I don't know, maybe he's being really nice, but he said almost all but one of the many things on the blood panel, he said were perfect, normal. And you can't, when you got these diseases, you can't hear anything better than that. So he was really positive about the plant-based lifestyle. And he mentioned that a lot of his doctor friends are involved in, I'm assuming he means that Eugene Doctors Group. Anyway, so I had an excellent visit, and I just wanted to share that because plant-based lifestyle causes that kind of thing. I gave that the plant-based whole food lifestyle to Dr. DeLee as the reason I'm doing so well in combating NASH. Well, living with NASH and it not getting any worse.
Ken, so thank you for that. I'm inspired to teach another class. It's words like that kind of make me want to teach another class. I must say, as far as NASH is concerned, the etiology or the cause of that, non-alcoholic, it's not caused by alcohol. Alcohol used to be the most common cause of liver cirrhosis and failure, but now the cause is fat. The fat that accumulates in the liver because of the standard American diet, essentially. So by moving to a whole food plant-based diet of whole foods, you've cut down dramatically on the fat, which has allowed probably your liver enzymes to recover. You're not splitting them apart as much, which releases the enzymes that raises your liver enzyme on your blood tests. So kudos to you and keep it up. We're thrilled.
Look younger yourself, very much younger. I don't know what's going on, but you look quite young compared to what I've seen in the past.
That's what I told him. I told him that a month ago. I said, you look different, healthier, something.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dr. DeLee is my gastroenterologist. Just I have my colonoscopy from him, and so I was having the same thing. So I'm glad you did too, because I was a few months ago in his office having that. And I know him because he used to be with OMG. So he's gone off with the GI group now, but he used to be with OMG, so he's actually a friend of mine. But yeah, he's a really nice guy. And you know,
Well,
we all should work on our providers a little bit, just to brag about our
so maybe we could chip in and I'll buy him a book of Fiber Fueled by Dr. Bolshevitz, the GI specialist, and get his take on it. And that might open his eyes even further after he's had the experience with Ken here.
yeah,
And you.
Well, he's open to it, to learning more. He wants to learn more. He's awfully busy, you know.
Yeah.
He works like 12 hours a day at the clinic. And
Yes. So Fiber Fueled is the book by Dr. Bolshevitz, which we could try to get to him. I'll pay for it myself.
he knows Scott fairly well, so we'll have to give Scott a heads up to visit with about it someday.
Okay. And by the way, Scott's not here tonight because he's on his way off on a trip of his own with his wife. They're going to have some fun on another continent in Europe.
nice. Is it? I've been getting feedback that you can't hear me. Is it better?
It's better now.
I think it's because I had it not faced right at me in my laptop. So
Thanks
sorry
for
about
doing
that.
that.
Yeah,
Very
sorry.
good.
Mhm.
All right. So that was wonderful to hear. Any other thoughts from anybody that I'm gonna kind of check it out and see if there's anybody else who's raised their hand or unmuted.
I have a
Mar-
question. I have a
Okay.
question.
All right, Trouty, we'll do you first, then Marcia, and then I don't know if Dorothea has something to say, but we'll kind of go in that order.
I have vomiting once a month or a little more than that, and I do not know what brings it on. It usually comes out in the evening, and last time it was high blood pressure. Even though I do take twice a day the blood pressure pills, it comes up suddenly. And with 206/91, I could not handle it. And they told me, the friends told me, usually with high blood pressure, you don't vomit. This time, my pill for the vomiting that my doctor prescribed did not work. And in the ambulance, they had to give me something stronger through the IV in the hand. So what is causing that?
Well, that's a question that I don't think I can answer definitively. I can kind of talk generally about the fact that vomiting can be related to food sensitivity, perhaps.
About what?
A food sensitivity, perhaps. Some spice or food that you happen to have an aversion to. That is something that I would consider, keeping a food diary and seeing what you had eaten, not necessarily 5 minutes before, but maybe over the whole day before, to just kind of keep track of that. So that's one thing that comes to my mind. The other is sometimes vomiting can be related to stress that goes on in one's life. Body reacts in many different ways. Sometimes people get headaches, some people get chest pain, some people belly pain, some people could get vomiting. So that's
I have had all of it at the same time and loose bowels at too.
yeah. Sometimes if people have generalized rash, there's a syndrome called serotonin, not serotonin. I can't think of the name right now. I'll think of it in a bit. But there's like a pheochromocytoma where you can get an elevated amount of epinephrine in the bloodstream, and that can cause a rapid heart rate, elevated blood pressure. Potentially, it could cause some vomiting. I don't know that your blood pressure is the cause. It could be that you vomited and then you took your blood pressure and then it was elevated because of the stress associated with vomiting. So it's difficult to sort out. This is something you're going to have to follow with your doctor and kind of keep track over time. And it sounds like your life is otherwise good, and this is an intermittent kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
may either have to get better, or if it gets worse, then it may be easier to diagnose. So I guess you're using Zofran or something like that to cut down on the nausea symptoms. Ozant. I don't know what else I can tell you. I can't really make a diagnosis, but I would think of something like a food sensitivity potentially.
Well, I was going out to eat with a friend the day before in the afternoon, and then the next day in the evening, that's what happened. But
Well,
it's not all because of that. I've had lentil soup that I fixed myself, and about half an hour later to an hour later, I start vomiting it out. The same thing, the lightheadedness and then the vomiting.
yeah, so when you get that, keep a diary of the symptoms you have, of the foods that you've eaten, all the foods, not just lentil soup, but whatever spices you put into it and all that. And then compare it with the next time it happens. And you know, and maybe you'll find a common denominator. That's my best thought.
Sounds very good. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Marcia.
Yes, I went for my physical last week. I
Yes.
had gone a few days before and got my blood test, and my numbers were excellent across the board, my doctor said. But my question was, my cholesterol was 174, and I like it to be under 150.
Yep.
Is there a way I can do that naturally?
Oh,
Yeah, so it depends. What did it start out as?
I'm not sure. I think it was more like 190, 180. So
Yeah, so
it's been going down, but
So, you know, it may take a while. How long have you been doing this?
since 2017.
Okay, so there are things that can lower your cholesterol. Oatmeal is one of the first things that I learned about. If you're eating a half a cup of oatmeal, maybe you could go to a cup of oatmeal. The extra fiber in your diet will hook onto the cholesterol and wheelbarrow it out of your body, and it'll lower your cholesterol.
Okay.
The oils and fats in your diet lead to it. So when you say oils and fats, you're not adding any refined oils in your cooking and stuff, but are you eating foods that have fat, like nuts and seeds, olives, avocados? Those are high fat kind of foods. So if you're eating high quantities, I want to give you what happened with my wife. We went on no nuts, no avocados, no olives, Dr. Esselstyn program because we wanted to reverse her potential heart disease. And she went from 212, I think, down to the 140 range or something in that area. She eventually got down to the 130s, but then we started incorporating quarter cup of nuts back into the diet and some other avocado, and her cholesterol went up to 170. So
Probably my problem.
So that's one thing. If you want to adjust it down below 150, just cut the nuts back to a quarter cup a day and substitute with some other potatoes or beans or lentils or quinoa or soy or whatever.
I'll make a pizza, and then we like to have olives on top.
Yeah,
And I have a couple olives. I mean, I rinsed them off, but still. But I think I'll just leave them out and I'll leave out the nuts and
and then
I'd really like to
take
get under.
take another test. And you know, if it goes way down, then maybe you can add a few nuts back in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. All right. Let's see. I think it's Dorothea. You didn't have a question. Okay, you're just unmuted, so it was hard for me
Oh,
to tell.
okay.
Okay, and then let's see, Ann, you have your hand up. Ann,
Hi, thank you. Um,
you're welcome.
so I'm wondering, as vegans, we're supposed to be getting a certain amount of iodine, which may be more difficult. So I was wondering if you could help come up with a safe nori product to eat, and how much would be safe. It's like I did send information about the
Cadmium.
in the Kirtland product, and there's apparently, and I sent what do you call it? It's a class action lawsuit against Costco, starting that was filed March 21st. And so I'm looking for a safe product we can eat. I'd rather not take the tablet, but if possible. But and how do we test to know if we're really low on iodine?
Do you do any iodized salt at all in your diet?
Well, we haven't, no, because we've been using the fancy salt, the smoked salts and things like that.
So
But-
if you stop using the fancy salts and you use the iodized, you can do a half a teaspoon, I learned today,
Oh.
has the quantity that would be adequate.
Oh,
So you don't want to eat over 3/4 of a teaspoon for the whole day,
right.
but a half a teaspoon of iodized salt will work. It's inexpensive, but I don't want you to forego your sea vegetable. And what we do right now, we've been doing dulse from Whole Foods. We get it, or from Amazon. A package, I think it's a 1 ounce package. It's once a month per person. And then the other option now, they ran out of dulse, so we've been doing wakame. The advantage of doing wakame, WAKAMA or ME, wakame, is that it has some medium and long chain omega-3s that dulse and the nori don't have. Now, the wakame, if you buy the thick, big stuff, it's pretty gross from my point of view. If you buy the stuff that's chopped up in small little, like 4 or 5 millimeter pieces, they say to soak it, but my wife just throws it in with the steam before she steams the veggies, and she steams it all together, and we don't even notice that it's there. So wakame, I think it's Ocean Pacific or Pacific Ocean at Whole Foods is where we got it, but I'm sure you can get it at other places.
Okay, now, and how do you spell dulce?
DULS.
DULSE or CE.
Okay, okay. And wakame is WAKAME.
AME.
Okay,
Wakame.
cool. Cool, thank you.
And the wakame my wife is using is like a teaspoon a piece.
Okay, and so how much wakame do you put in?
A
How much a
teaspoon.
day? A
A
teaspoon a day?
teaspoon a piece.
Per
So a
each of-
teaspoon per person per day.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you
but
very
I would
much.
switch out those other salts for the iodized to make sure you get it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, this is fun so far. Anybody else have questions that they want to get answered? I see Marcia.
Yeah. What is wakame for?
Wakame is like a sea vegetable. It's like dulse or nori. And it has omega-3s in it, and it has some moderate and long chain omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, okay.
Some people can convert the short chain fatty acids, the omega-3s that you get from walnuts and that you get from flax seeds. Those have short chain omega-3s. Well, the body also needs some medium and long chain. And so there is a controversy as to whether you should be taking a supplement of DHA, EPA. And there are differing opinions on this. I personally choose not to take the supplement because my wife was tested. We eat the same, and her omega-3 short chain, moderate, and long chains were all in a normal range. That doesn't mean mine are, but I feel great. And, I just am like, hey, I feel great. I don't think I really need to take another supplement. Dr. Greger says maybe take it once or twice a week if you're in an older age group, just to hedge your bet. Scott, our co-leader here, he takes it once or twice a week, I think, just to hedge his bets. Dr. Clapper says, I'm still waiting for the science to show me for sure one way or the other. I'll let you know in another 8 months or a year. And so the verdict, the jury is still out as to whether we could be supplementing. And for me, I can wait another year or two the way I feel to see whether that would be a good idea to supplement or not.
Thank you.
So I hope I didn't confuse you with that, but it is a controversy. Yes, Ken. You have your hand up from before, or maybe? Okay, Merrill. Well, wait, Ken, I can't hear you because you're muted. There you go.
Merrill had his hand up before me.
Okay, Merrill.
Thank you.
Her
Thanks,
picture's
Dave.
not there, so I don't know that.
Okay,
problem.
Merrill, go first and then Ken.
No problem. I have a follow-up on that, on the iodine and seaweeds. I was under the belief that you should try to get your sea vegetables from the Atlantic Ocean rather than the Pacific Ocean because of, the waters coming from Japan and the radiation and such.
Good thought.
But I also, from a friend of mine, she found a place in Northern California called Nature Spirit Herbs, and they're constantly testing their seaweed
Okay.
for its purity and such. One of the things I'm wondering though is I bought some nori flakes and I take a teaspoon a day. I hope that that's not too much, of the flakes. But sometimes I also get those little packs, and you mentioned, Anne, about Costco having those little packs of nori sheets.
Yeah.
Well, I get mine from Trader Joe's. Is there something I should be looking at? Because you mentioned it's too high in cadmium. Is that what you said?
It was the, which was it?
It's the Costco one, and there's now a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against Costco for not disclosing this information.
Because I'm wondering if all of it is problematic, because I know that, like I said, they sell it at Trader Joe's as well, those little packs.
It may be a different company. The one that Costco, they just put that warning on that, heavy warning. And it was off the shelf for a long time. I thought it was distribution problems because of COVID and whatever, but it's back on the shelf. The 10 packet thing with Costco, it says it's organic seaweed, but the California warning, very stringent California warning,
Yes.
says cadmium can cause cancer and birth defects. And that's what's scary.
Yeah,
So
the problem is that
Go ahead.
California's warnings are required, and sometimes they're a little bit excessive, but you can't afford to take the chance.
Yeah. So the Costco product is organic roasted seaweed. It doesn't say it's dulse. It doesn't say it's wakame. It doesn't say it's nori. It says it's seaweed. So it might be a slightly different where it's grown or whatever it is. It may have cadmium in the area that it's being raised and produced or whatever. So as far as nori is concerned, I think Dr. Gregor recommends 2 sheets of nori. That sounds like an awful lot to me. I don't know how big the sheets are he's talking about. You could do a search on his site to review what he has to say about dulse and what he has to say about sea vegetables in general. If you do a search on sea vegetables and read a little bit more about it, my take is that sounds good about the Atlantic versus the Pacific, but probably it's pretty minimal amounts that you're dealing with because it's very low on the food chain. It doesn't tend to accumulate like it does in fish. The toxic components, the dioxin and the mercury and the radiation tends to be considerably less when you're dealing with algae, seaweed, dulse, nori. So I wouldn't worry too much about that myself.
Oh, okay, good, because I just bought some from Costco.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, well, that's the purpose of the classes and to keep track. And, you're not going to keel over because you bought a couple packages or whatever, enough for 6 months. But keep track of it and we'll keep you posted as we learn more. Okay, Ken, you've got some nori in your hand.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of seaweed, and I like what you said. Maybe if I crush that up, it's only a tablespoon. But you said a tablespoon of wakame will give me enough salt.
We do
Iodine.
a teaspoon of it, but we also do about 1/4 of a teaspoon apiece of iodized salt on a daily basis. So we're getting some iodized salt in the browl, and then what is that?
Wakame.
Yeah. So what does it say a serving size is, and does it give you the iodine amount?
It just says like I'm sorry. The wakame. Yeah, 1 sheet. Doesn't mention iodine. Oh, nope, it doesn't.
No iodine. Mm-mm.
You may need to maybe call the company and ask them on a sheet of this, how much iodine is in there? I'm sure they would tell you. I'd like to find that out.
And then the wakame, is this kind of what you use?
Yeah, what's the name of that brand?
Organic Pacific.
Organic
Halo.
Pacific,
Ocean's Halo.
Ocean
And
Halo.
organic.
Okay. Yeah, there's different kinds. Is it big or small?
I don't know the difference, but
Ocean what?
Pacific. No, I
Ocean
knew that.
Halo?
I think so, but I'm not sure.
I think Ocean, that's the company, Organic Pacific. But the product is Ocean's Halo.
Oh,
Ocean
okay.
Halo or Halo?
And where'd you get it at?
Probably Whole Foods, or
Yeah.
I go to Market of Choice, and then I don't think Freddy's has it.
Okay.
Do you see that?
So Debbie, you put up, oh yeah, those are the small pieces. That's what we eat. About a teaspoon of that a day.
Okay.
Debbie, you put up some sort of link. What's that for?
So that was supposed to be a picture of the wakame little granulated
Okay.
seaweed, but I don't know if it's showing up as that. It doesn't look like it is.
I see. Okay. Yeah, it showed up as kind of a link.
Yeah, and the link doesn't appear to work, so that was a bust.
I see. Okay, well, good try.
Yep.
And couldn't you also just take the wakame, which is what I do with actually my dried mushrooms. I put them in my coffee grinder and make them into powders. So then it's easier to measure things and put it in things and all of that.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I like that concept. but my wife likes to take a package and sprinkle a little in there, and she says, that's good. And, and I said, how much you putting in there? She says, well, you can see how much I'm sprinkling in there. So that's how we're doing it. We're not, everybody needs to be a different level of exacting, and we all have our different levels of obsessive compulsiveness to make sure we get it right. Right?
Mhm.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Dorothea.
I have kidney disease.
Yes.
And so I'm limiting my salt intake.
Yeah.
And so should I be concerned about getting enough iodine?
Yeah, so if you're not taking any salt from anything, then you want to make sure you're getting some iodine. So you can get it either in an iodine in a multivitamin or iodine tablet. 150 micrograms is the amount that's generally the accepted amount that we like to see most people get in a day. And
How
so
much?
150 micrograms.
Okay.
And so in order to get that, it's a half a teaspoon of iodized salt, but you're not eating salt. So you could do what we've been doing, and that's do a package of dulse once a month, or you could buy wakame, get some sea vegetable in your life. At first, it tastes not so great. In fact, the first time I tried it, I swore I'd never eat it again. And now I kind of crave it because my taste buds kind of changed. I got used to it. But I must warn you, it's a food that is an acquired taste. It is not something that you are going to like, hey, this is a piece of fruit and I want more. You're going to say, this is like medicine. And yet, if you combine it with other greens, that taste will be kind of subdued. You won't even recognize it once you get used to eating it with dark green leafies that are maybe steamed.
And what's the name of this?
Wakame, W-A-K-A-M-E, wakame. Okay, we're having fun so far. You have something, Marcia, to share?
Did you just, well, a question for you. Did you just say Dulse is D-U-L-S-E is the same as Wakame?
They're two different. Dulse is the one that I've been eating for 8 years. Wakame is what we've just gone to because they ran out of Dulse at Whole Foods when we were there the other day. And so we just decided to take on some wakame.
Oh, okay.
But Dulse is fine. If you're used to eating it, keep doing it if you can find it. But, the stores are running out sometimes. So it's good to have a second option.
So how do you spell Dulse?
D-U-L-S-E, Dulse. And it's a package, one package a month.
And Charlie, I was going to say, I've been messing around with Untuna. And so I just made vegan tuna sandwich with chickpeas, and it called for wakame, and I had never tried that. So it just had me soak the wakame flakes and add them to fork crushed chickpeas with some other, and it was really good.
It's
So you
very
guys
good.
would- yeah, veganheaven.org is where I got the recipe.
We had it the first of the week. It's called Untuna. And
there's so many recipes for it.
Yes. So if you've never tried Untuna, try it with wakame or dulse, and you're in for a treat potentially. Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Trouty.
Do you remember Ryan Whitlock from Oak Ridge?
Yeah, I remember Ryan.
Okay, he asked me to ask you if you remember him. So yeah, I will tell him you remember.
Say hello to him.
Okay, I will.
Okay, great.
I've got a couple of questions.
Okay, Ken, go for it.
What is this untuna sounds like it's processed.
Well, it's processed by you. You take the garbanzo beans and then you just grind them, but not into a smooth like hummus. You only grind them very minimally, so they're like chunks, almost like chunks of tuna. And then you add a little bit of this sea vegetable for the tuna-like taste, and then yeah, it's like a vegan tuna sandwich with chickpeas.
Oh, so you make it yourself.
So there are other ingredients. You could put onions and garlic with it. You can put whatever else, I don't know, different recipes. Some recipes may use veganese, which I'm not a big fan of because that's a processed issue. You could use a little tahini, which is ground up sesame seeds.
Carrots are good in it.
You could put some carrots in it. You can do whatever you want to alter the recipe, but it's basically chickpeas with a little bit of this sea vegetable, which give it the flavor.
And can you cook the chickpeas before you coarsely grind them?
Oh, really?
So you soak them in water first and then cook them?
Yes.
Or you can buy cooked
or
garbanzo beans.
Yeah, or canned, yeah.
You can buy canned cooked garbanzo beans.
If you do them in the pressure cooker, you can take raw garbanzo beans and put them in a pressure cooker, put a little bit of water in it, or cover your garbanzo beans, and an hour it'll be like you get them out of a can.
And you wouldn't have the salt.
Right?
Exactly.
But my point was really about that you don't cut them up or chop them up until they're cooked. That's the piece I wanted to make sure I was.
Thanks for clarifying that. What else?
You said something about you have one certain kind of seaweed once a month, or were you saying you have one package a month of
one package a month of dulse, D-U-L-S-E?
Yeah, I got that. I just wanted to make sure I got it right.
Okay, no problem.
I have a question.
Yeah.
A lot of beans are giving me migraines. What can I get for fiber and for protein?
So if you don't get along with beans, you could use lentils. You can try chickpeas, which, just substitute chickpeas for the beans. I think split peas can also be used. You could do edamame, which is soy. It's the soybean edamame. They're green. They're really tasty. So there's a various number of choices that you could choose if you don't like the bean.
You can also use some grains like quinoa. The other thing you do is use seeds like chia, which has fiber, a lot of fiber.
And if you're eating enough calories, you're getting enough protein. If you're not hungry throughout the day, if you're filling yourself up, you're going to get enough protein, not to worry. And remember, with renal issues, you want lower protein in your diet because protein is harder on your kidneys.
Oh, okay.
Huh? Who would have known? Okay. Any other questions? I have videos if we don't get any questions. I always have another video of some sort.
I think you promised us some videos that you wanted to. You said I had 5. but I only have room for one, and we'll show the rest of them next week.
All right, well, I'll share a video then, and then maybe a couple of them, and then we'll see if you have questions afterward. So let me go to the share screen application here, and we're going to start out with which spices fight inflammation. Remember, underlying most of our chronic illnesses is inflammation, and you really would want to choose some spices that help reduce that inflammatory response. So let's take a look at this first segment. I got to just go to the Autoimmune on the file explorer. Let's see if I'm getting close to what I want to do here. I got a complicated backup system here, which we're going to Autoimmune. There we go. And here is which spices. Here we go.
Once in a while, I come across a study that's so juicy I do an entire video about it. It's like my which fruit fights cancer better video, or the best cooking method one, or that one comparing thousands of foods. Well, this is one such study. A group of researchers at U of F, Gainesville, and Penn State set up an elegant experiment. We've known ounce per ounce that herbs and spices have some of the greatest antioxidant activities known, but that's in a test tube. Before we can ask if an herb or spice has health benefits, it's first necessary to determine whether it's bioavailable. This has never been done until now. They could have went the easy route and just measured the change in antioxidant level in one's bloodstream before and after consumption, but the assumption that the appearance of antioxidant activity in the blood is an indicator of bioavailability has a weakness. Maybe more gets absorbed than we think, but doesn't show up on antioxidant tests because it gets bound up to protein or cells, so they attempted to measure physiological changes in the blood. They were interested in whether absorbed compounds would be able to protect white blood cells from an oxidative or inflammatory injury, whether it would protect the strands of our DNA from breaking when confronted by free radicals. They also wondered if the consumption of herbs and spices might alter cellular inflammatory responses in the presence of a physiologically relevant inflammatory insult. What does this all mean? Well, what they did was take a bunch of people and had each of them eat different types of spices for a week. There's so many really unique things about this study, but one was that the quantity that study subjects consumed was based on the usual levels of consumption in actual food. Like, the oregano group was given a half teaspoon a day, the kinds of practical quantities people might actually eat once in a while. Then at the end of the week, they drew blood from the dozen or so people they had adding black pepper to their diets that week, and compared the effects of their blood to the effects of the blood of the dozen on cayenne, or cinnamon, or cloves, or cumin. They had about 10 different groups of people eating about 10 different spices. Then they dripped their plasma, the liquid fraction of their blood, onto human white blood cells in a petri dish that had been exposed to an inflammatory insult. They wanted to pick something really inflammatory, so they chose oxidized cholesterol, which is like what you'd get in your bloodstream after eating something like fried chicken. So they jabbed the white blood cells with oxidized cholesterol, and then measured how much TNF they produced in response. Tumor necrosis factor is a powerful inflammatory cytokine, infamous for the role it plays in autoimmune attacks like inflammatory bowel disease. Compared to the blood of those who ate no spices for a week, was the blood of those eating black pepper able to significantly dampen the inflammatory response? No. What about any of these other spices? Cloves, ginger, rosemary, and turmeric were able to significantly stifle the inflammatory response. And remember, they weren't dripping the spices themselves on these human white blood cells, but the blood of those who ate the spices. And so it represents what might happen when cells in our body are exposed to the levels of spices that circulate in our bloodstream after normal daily consumption. Not mega doses in some pill, just the amount that makes our spaghetti sauce taste good, or our pumpkin pie, or curry sauce. There are drugs that can do the same thing, Tumor necrosis factors are such major mediators of inflammation and inflammation-related diseases that there are these TNF-blocking drugs on the market for the treatment of inflammatory diseases like osteoarthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, psoriasis, ankylosing spondylitis, which rake in collectively more than $20 billion a year, because drug companies charge people $15,000 to $20,000 a year for the drug. At that price, the side effects better be hugs and rainbows, but no, these drugs carry a black label warning because they can cause things like cancer, heart failure. If only there were a cheaper, safer solution. Curcumin, the yellow pigment in turmeric, a spice that's a tad cheaper and safer, but does it work outside of a test tube? There's evidence that it may help in all the diseases for which TNF blockers are currently being used. And so with healthcare costs and safety being such major issues, this golden spice turmeric may help provide the solution.
So perhaps now you understand why Dr. Greger recommends a quarter teaspoon of turmeric on a daily basis, because of its anti-inflammatory effects. But there are other spices that work, and maybe you remember them: cloves, ginger, rosemary, and turmeric are really excellent choices. Now we're going to go to benefits of flax seeds for inflammation. So I just need to hunt around on here, and let's see what flax seeds do for inflammation.
Previously, I've explored the potent antihypertensive effect of dietary flaxseed in hypertensive patients. This was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial where they disguised ground flaxseed in baked goods versus like flax-free placebo muffins, and got an extraordinary drop in high blood pressures. As you can imagine, the flaxseed industry was overjoyed, praising the impressive findings, as was I. After all, high blood pressure is the single largest risk factor for death on the planet Earth. Yes, we give people medications, lots and lots of medications, but most people don't take them, as in 9 out of 10 people take less than 80% of the prescribed blood pressure pills, just 8%. It's not difficult to understand why. Patients are asked to follow an inconvenient, potentially costly regimen, which will likely have detrimental effect on their health-related quality of life, to treat a mostly asymptomatic condition, so they may feel worse instead of better due to the side effects. The answer, then, is to give them more drugs to counteract the effects of the first drugs, like giving men Viagra to counter the erectile dysfunction caused by their blood pressure pills. How about using a dietary strategy instead, especially if it can just be as effective? And indeed, the drop in blood pressures they got in the flaxseed study was greater than the average decrease observed with the standard dose of antihypertensive drugs. And flax seeds are cheaper, too, compared to even single medications, and most patients are on multiple drugs, and has good side effects beyond their antihypertensive actions, but not all good. Taking tablespoons of flaxseed a day is a lot of fiber for people who've been living off of cheeseburgers and milkshakes their whole lives, and it can take a little while for your gut bacteria to adjust to the new bounty. So people who start out with low-fiber diets may want to take it slow at first. Not all studies have shown significant blood pressure-lowering effects. There have been over a dozen trials by now, involving more than 1,000 subjects, and though yes, put them all together, and overall there were significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressures, the upper and lower numbers, following supplementation with various flaxseed products. None were as dramatic as that 6-month trial. The longer trials tended to show better results, and some of the trials just used flaxseed oil or some kind of flaxseed extract. And the thought is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Each of the components of interest within flaxseed, the omega-3s, the cancer-fighting lignans, all the soluble fiber and plant proteins, all contribute toward the blood pressure reduction. Okay, but how? Why? Right? What's the mechanism? Some common blood pressure medications like Norvasc or Procardia work by reducing the ability of the heart to contract, or slowing the heart down. And so it's possible that's how flax seeds work too, but no. Dietary flaxseed reduces blood pressure without cardiac involvement, but rather through changes in plasma oxylipins. What are oxylipins? Oxylipins are a group of fatty acid metabolites involved in inflammation, and as a result have been implicated in many pro-inflammatory conditions, including cardiovascular disease and aging. The best characterized oxylipins in relation to cardiovascular disease are derived from the long-chain omega-6 fatty acids known as arachidonic acid, found preformed in animal products, particularly chicken and eggs, and can be made inside the body from junky omega-6 rich oils such as cottonseed oil. But elevated levels of pro-inflammatory oxylipins in older subjects are normalized by flaxseed consumption. See, that's how he thinks flaxseed consumption reduces blood pressure in patients with hypertension, by inhibiting the enzyme that makes these pro-inflammatory oxylipins. I'll spare you from the acronym overload, but basically, eating flax seeds inhibits the activity of the enzyme that makes these pro-inflammatory oxylipins, called leukotoxin diols, which in turn may lower blood pressure. Identifying the molecular mechanisms adds confidence to the antihypertensive actions of dietary flaxseed, but that's not all oxylipins do. Oxylipins may play a role in the aging process, but we may be able to beneficially disrupt these biological changes associated with inflammation and aging with nutritional intervention like flaxseed. Older adults around age 50 have higher levels of these arachidonic acid-derived oxylipins compared to younger adults around age 20. These elevated concentrations of pro-inflammatory oxylipins in the older age group may help explain the higher levels of inflammation in older versus younger individuals. I mean, as we get older, right, we're more likely to be stricken with inflammatory conditions like arthritis. So this elevation of pro-inflammatory oxylipins may predispose individuals to chronic disease conditions. But what if you took these older adults and gave them muffins, ground flaxseed-containing muffins? 4 weeks later, their levels dropped to here, right? Down to like 20-year-old levels, demonstrating that a potential therapeutic strategy to correct the deleterious pro-inflammatory oxylipin profile is via dietary supplementation with flax.
So this is a video that I had not paid much attention to. I'm going to stop the sharing for a moment. I might have heard it one time. It never really registered the first time I heard it. And it's much more impressive now when I learn about oxylipins and causing an inflammatory response, and the flax seeds inhibit that. For those of you who have high blood pressure, maybe adding an extra tablespoon of flaxseed into your life might be a worthwhile strategy to see if that will help control your blood pressure a bit more. Any thoughts? Yes, Anne.
Can you tell me, I didn't quite catch, how much turmeric a day is one supposed to take? And then how, did you say flaxseed is a tablespoon?
Yeah, so Dr. Greger in his daily dozen recommends a tablespoon of ground flax seeds once a day. Some people may take up to 2. The turmeric is 1/4 of a teaspoon every day. Make sure you take it with a pinch of black pepper because it increases the absorption by, I don't know, 200% or something like that, a lot. And so some people take a half of a teaspoon, some people take up to a teaspoon of turmeric if they really have significant autoimmune or inflammatory conditions. So I'd say that's probably the upper limit. I think you can go even a little higher than that, but that's the kind of ballpark range I would start with.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Ken and then Marcia. Can unmute yourself first. Still not unmuted yet. Still not unmuted.
Okay, I just about lost you. I went back to the beginning, like.
Okay, you're here.
So let's talk about ginger.
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying we should take, it's a lot, so it's probably wrong, but a tablespoon a day of ground ginger. So how much ginger should we eat?
He just said the amounts that you normally would use, and I don't know what those amounts are
In
actually.
the 21 tweaks
Yep.
on the Daily Dozen, it says for ginger, hold on, I'm looking, a teaspoon of ginger or a half teaspoon of cayenne pepper. He also recommends a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. On the
Meryl,
21
thank
tweaks.
you.
And cumin, he recommends a half a teaspoon with lunch and dinner. But these are the 21 tweaks. These are not anti-inflammatory. They're to help lose weight. But that's what's on his nutritionfacts.org, the Daily Dozen on my phone.
Okay, you got that? Marcia.
Yeah, what else besides anti-inflammation did he say turmeric? Turmeric was good for? Turmeric or whatever you say it.
I think it's immune boosting, it's anti-inflammatory. I think it has other effects. I can't recall exactly what they are at this point.
Okay.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Yeah, go ahead,
Charlie?
Jerry.
I buy this stuff at natural grocers. It's put out by Frontier Co-op. I actually called them up and talked to a lady there. They were wonderful. It's organic turmeric twist. This is the sweet blend. They also have a savory blend. And this has got, well, it's too small to read without my magnifying glass, but it's got the black pepper. It's got the cloves. And what was the rest of it? Turmeric, cloves, ginger, and black pepper.
Well, that's.
And I use a teaspoon a day.
Turmeric twist.
Teaspoon, it wouldn't be a teaspoon of each one of those. It would be, a certain percentage of each of those then. Right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're all mixed together in there.
Okay, well, that
so
seems
when I take
not unreasonable. It seems like a reasonable choice.
What's the name of it?
Turmeric twist.
It's called turmeric twist. And this is the sweet blend, the one with the cloves and the ginger in it. But they also have a savory, and I don't know what's in that one.
Sweet.
I should look.
So I did a quick search for turmeric on the benefits, and it says combating harmful inflammation, age-fighting antioxidant, significantly lowers triglycerides, so it strengthens cardiovascular health, protects against cognitive decline, and it helps to balance blood sugar. So it's good for diabetics, relieves everyday joint pain, aches and pains, eases digestive discomfort. So there's a lot of potential issues that it could be valuable for.
And which one was that?
Turmeric.
Oh, turmeric. Okay.
Can you overdose on that? Can you eat too much?
I think you can eat too much of anything, but I think up to a teaspoon of that a day is definitely a safe dose. I would start with a quarter teaspoon. That's what Dr. Greger recommends. If you're not getting the benefits you want, I'd go to a half. If you're still having problems, you may go up to 3/4 or a teaspoon. And then you start thinking about, maybe I better do some research about my body weight and what, do I have any health conditions which may interfere with this that I should be taking more. I'd be careful about taking over a teaspoon of that a day.
When I first started taking the turmeric, someone had told me that I was, it's good to have some like avocado or nuts for the oil, for the fat in there. It makes it absorb better. Is that true or not true?
I think what's true is that pepper makes it absorb better. I haven't heard that the fats make it absorb better.
Yeah, I've heard both, that you have both fat and you want to eat it, I thought, with your fattiest meal of the day, which for me is the meal that I have my flaxseed. So I actually put turmeric, cloves, cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, and black pepper in my oatmeal every morning. And I've gotten you, and actually my seaweed, to be honest. I get it all in first thing in the morning. And at first it was very strong tasting. And now it's it's all good.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So there's a lot of options that people have.
Okay, I take it in capsule form. I think it's the turmeric, and it's got black pepper in with it.
That's good.
And how do it's expressed in, I think, in micrograms. How do I translate from the teaspoon measurements to the metric system?
Well, I don't know of any particular milligram dose that's recommended. It's usually 1/4 of a teaspoon is what Gregor recommends. So you have a capsule, pull the capsule apart, dump it into a measuring device, see if it's 1/4 or 1/8 of a teaspoon, and just maybe it takes 2 of those to get up to 1/4 of a teaspoon is what my guess would be.
Yeah, I do take 2. And I think it's probably 2 combined is probably slightly over 1/4 teaspoon.
Then that sounds like a thoroughly adequate dose to begin with. And I wouldn't worry about any other numbers.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other comments or thoughts or suggestions? I have another couple videos. They just are overflowing in my room here where I'm standing on my treadmill. So I will go back, we'll play a couple more, and then we'll finish off with a few more questions. I just need to go back to share the screen. And let's see if it takes me back to, yeah, I have a couple more here that I put down. One of them is kind of a testimonial from, let's see, where is this? A plant-based diet changed my life. And then we're going to get into how to increase life expectancy 12 to 14 years. But first this.
I picked up my girlfriend at the train station on an average weekday night in December of 2015. The second she got in the car, I could tell something was bothering her. Sure enough, a few minutes later, she started complaining about a situation at work. We got home, ate some dinner, and sat on the couch to do a little work on our laptops. I thought for a second I was off the hook, but shortly thereafter, the venting resumed. Now, to that point in my life, and to that point in my relationship, anytime situations like that arose, let's just say I didn't handle them gracefully. They usually ended with me saying something like, "Don't bring that negative energy, figure it out." And I'd proceed to storm out of the room. Not my best quality, I know, but that was my way of dealing with it. But something was different about that night. For some unexplainable reason, I had this strange sense of calm and ease within me. Instead of my blood pressure rising, I sat there and actually listened to what she had to say. For the first time in my life, I felt someone else's pain and feelings as if they were my own. I reassured her it was all going to work out, and in the end, it'd be okay. I waited for her to respond, but no response came. Instead, she just leaned over and hugged me. I'll never forget that hug. In the months leading up to that night, I was 25 years old, waking up with pain in my hand so bad, I struggled to tie my shoes. My ankles, knees, and hips would crack like fireworks as I made my way up the stairs to the kitchen. I'd fire up my 4 eggs, no toast, didn't want the carbs, and I'd be out the door to the gym. I was an absolute machine. Yet, despite my military-like discipline to this high-protein diet and spending hours a day in the gym, and I mean hours, beneath the surface, I was battling arthritis, allergies, asthma, skin issues, and a number of other bodily problems I won't scare you with. Many of which I blamed on years of sports and 4 years of college football. I figured it was just part of getting old. I got to a point where I knew spending more time in the gym could not be the answer. I couldn't possibly work out more than I already was. I knew I had to change something on the diet side of things. So despite what everybody had told me, coaches, doctors alike, that a high-protein diet was best for both my health and fitness, I decided to try something new. I don't quite recall where the idea came from, but I remember thinking, nobody ever told me fruits and vegetables were a bad thing. That's one thing we can all agree on. The problem was I didn't really like fruits and vegetables. They were always the side to my hunk of meat that I would choke down or not touch at all. So I figured the most painless way to get them in was to fill the blender with some greens, any fruit and vegetables I had lying around, blend it up, and drink it down. I just started by replacing my 4 eggs in the morning with this green smoothie. That green smoothie gave me a taste of energy and mental clarity and a taste of feel-good that I had never before experienced. So over the next few weeks, I started experimenting. If I ate something that made me feel as good as that new high I was getting from that green smoothie, I kept it in play. If I ate something that didn't make me feel as good, I gave it a Gronk-like stiff arm. And us New Englanders know there's no coming back from a Gronk stiff arm. When I stepped back after those few weeks and looked at the new foods I was eating versus the ones I had eliminated, it was very clear to me that on one side was plant foods that I'd kept in play, and on the other side was animal foods. I didn't quite know it at the time, but I had stumbled into what is commonly referred to today as a plant-based diet. Over the next 6 months of following a primarily whole food plant-based diet, not only did I continue to experience crazy amounts of energy and mental clarity, not only did I effortlessly lose that football weight and get down to the weight I always desired, not only did I get stronger in the gym, not only did I get faster on my runs, but every single health issue I had battled since I was 3 years old went away. The allergies, the asthma, the arthritis, all of it gone. I couldn't help but wonder why at no point in my life did any doctor, nutritionist, parent, teacher, coach friend, anybody, give me that information. When I went to the doctor, whenever I had a problem, they'd tell me what was wrong, then they'd give me the pill, the inhaler, the EpiPen, the cream. We live in a system where, say if you're walking around with a splinter in your foot and you're limping around and you're in pain. In most cases, you go to the doctor, they say, you have a splinter in your foot. Here's an orthotic for your shoe. Here's a cane to help you walk. Here's a pill to numb the pain. Wouldn't it make more sense to just reach down and pull the splinter out? Why wasn't I given that option? Because I would have chosen it years prior. I realize my health issues may seem trivial to some of you, but I didn't like bringing my inhaler to football practice in front of my buddies. I didn't like bringing an EpiPen to my girlfriend's house. It was embarrassing. So when all these things went away, it was a profound experience for me. I felt like I had been lied to my whole life. I decided to quit my job and seek answers. What I found and what I learned shocked me. I learned that over 2 million Americans will die from disease-related causes this year. I learned that over half of those are from our top 2 killers, heart disease and cancer. I learned that heart disease is preventable and reversible, that the only diet on the planet that has been proven time and time again to not only stop in its tracks, but reverse our #1 killer is a plant-based diet. Dr. Dean Ornish demonstrated this way back in 1990, coincidentally the year I was born. I learned that according to the American Cancer Institute, just 5 to 10% of all cancers come from purely genetic factors. That means that 90+% of the deaths from our top 2 killers are actually a result of our diet and lifestyle. That means that whatever health situation you're in right now, it's not a result, for 9 out of 10 of us, maybe more, it's not a result of a bad genetic draw or that it runs in the family, but rather it's a direct result of what we choose to eat and do on a daily basis. So to rephrase that top number, nearly 2 million Americans will die this year from their very own diet and lifestyle. I learned that in 2015, the World Health Organization declared processed meats a Class 1 carcinogen, and all red meats a probable carcinogen, meaning that we know without a doubt these foods promote the growth of cancer in the human body. Another widely used Class 1 carcinogen is cigarettes. I learned that not just processed meats and red meats are the only problem. That according to the American Association of Cancer Research, all animal protein, including fish, dairy, and eggs, raises the level of cancer growth hormone IGF-1 in the human body. I could go on and on about the benefits of eating more plants and less animals, but there are many more experts out there that can do a better job than I can. But the evidence is so overwhelming that states like California have been fighting to remove processed meats from public schools, and that the country of Canada has removed dairy as a food group from their 2018 food pyramid and no longer advises their citizens to consume it. A number of doctors that I encourage you all to check out that have spent a lifetime studying this: Dr. Dean Ornish that I mentioned, Dr. Colin T. Campbell, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Neil Bernard, and Dr. Michael Greger. And I highly encourage you familiarize yourself with their work. Now back to that night in December of 2015. What was going on there? I've sat across from and interviewed nearly 100 people on my podcast that have transitioned from a predominantly animal-based diet or a standard American diet to a plant-based diet. And almost all of them speak of some similar experience, some newfound sense of calm and ease within them. I've come to believe that when you align your daily actions with the human values you already have inside of you, this phenomenon occurs. What I mean by human values is that deep down, all of us are loving and compassionate beings. For example, if you left this auditorium today and on your way out to the car, you saw a pig caught in the fence, this little cute pig here, and his leg's bleeding and he's whining, not one of us would go over there and kill and eat that pig. Instead, we'd feel bad for him. We'd go help him out. We might even take him to the vet. But then we'd get back in our car and without a second thought, we'd go home and fire up a BLT or a ham sandwich. We're here now eating that same animal that we just showed love and kindness toward. I realize not many people make that connection, but I believe at a subconscious level, our bodies know. Furthermore, I believe that when you eat an animal, a once living, breathing, feeling creature, that you take on its energy. There's a scientific theory dating back to the 1940s that has been popularized by the likes of Deepak Chopra and others called cellular memory, and that our memories and experiences exist at a cellular level, not just in the brain, and are able to live beyond the life of a being. So when you eat a cow, for example, when you eat a burger, a steak, you are in fact eating a cow that's life looks something like when it was born, ripped from her mother. She was then fed so much until she got so fat she could barely move. She was raped and impregnated. Her baby, her calf, was then ripped from her at birth. She was milked for all she was worth, and the process repeats over and over and over. She spends her entire life in an enclosure no bigger than this circle I'm standing on. Ultimately, when she's no longer of value, she's hung upside down by her hind legs and slit at the throat. We then eat that animal. And to think that that fear, that anxiety, that stress, that pain, that anger, that dis-ease has no impact on our health and how we treat others is simply ludicrous. If you told me 4 years ago, I'd be standing up here talking with you about things like love and compassion, not only for myself and in my health, but for other humans and even animals, I would have laughed you out of the damn room. Yet here I am, and it started with a change I decided to make to my plate. And I stand here today a better man in every sense of the word. A better friend, a better family member, a better boyfriend. So the next time you sit down to a meal, I encourage you all to just take a minute and think about what you're taking from the outside world and putting inside of your body, because it is the single greatest decision we make daily. And know that what you're about to eat not only impacts your health, but it has a profound impact on your ability to love and care for the people in your life. Thank you.
It had been a while since I'd seen that whole video clip, and I see the room stayed with us through that, even though a bit of it may have been a bit uncomfortable. But I'm glad that you were all able to see it. I'm glad that I was able to watch it again myself. It's been some time. And, you know, when you listen to some of these stories, they're pretty powerful and can help either keep you on track, get you motivated to do a little bit more, maybe make you feel like this isn't quite so hard to do, or maybe if it is hard, that it's definitely worth it. And pretty powerful TED Talk, all in all, from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. You know, the plant diet, after a while, I get tired of it. And then when they get shopping and they bring me other stuff that I'm not supposed to have, I start eating it. And then when I hear something like this, it puts me right back into the plant diet. It helps me to stay focused. That's wonderful.
That's why we play this, and that's why we do it every single week, because it's so easy to fall back on our old world,
Yeah.
the old myths that we live by, and the actually complicity that we've just kind of ignore how our foods are being produced and that sort of thing. So thank you for those comments. Anybody else have anything? It's a hard one to follow. But I'm glad you were all able to see that. I don't know that I need to play another video. It's how to increase life expectancy. I don't want to break the milieu that we got from listening to our last speaker. I mean, he was pretty good.
What's the name of that guy again?
Let me go back, share the screen. You can get it on YouTube, of course. And let's see. It's
Pat
McCauley.
Pat McCauley.
Only. Mm-hmm.
It's a plant-based diet changed my life. Pat McCauley TED Talk.
What does TED mean?
TED is something education,
Technology, education, and design.
Yeah, there you go. And they take the speakers from out the country who have really something to offer and what they have to say, and they do a production, the TED company, different places. So you'll have different names, different cities that they do these in. They're generally worthwhile listening to, TED Talks.
It was very good. Yes.
Glad you liked it. Next week, we're going to be talking about how our mind influences our health. And I'm excited to do that one. It's really an important one. Look forward to seeing those of you who are interested in coming. And if you're not, that's okay too. It'll be on the website. I do want to share with you that we've been working, we have a potluck coming up through an organization which is called Eugene Plant-Based Providers, for those of you who are not aware of it, in this Eugene Springfield area. It's not this Sunday, coming Sunday, but it's the following Sunday. It's going to be in Springfield, and it's going to be in conjunction with Eugene Veggies, or I can't remember the exact name. JJ is the coordinator of that. They're not completely whole food plant-based as a group, but we're going to have a couple tables. One is a plant-based, whole food plant-based table, and the other is a vegetarian table, so you can eat whatever you choose to eat. And it's just a get together for those of you who might be interested. That's one issue. The other issue is
that going to be indoors or outdoors? Do you know?
It's going to be outdoors.
Okay, thank you.
So if you're worried about the spread of COVID, you can still wear a mask if you're wearing it outdoors, or you don't, if you feel more comfortable, you don't have to. And, everybody is still doing their thing, whatever it is, but it's going to be outdoors.
Where's it at?
I can't remember. It's Springfield. It's on the
Island Park.
where?
Island Park.
Idlewild Park,
Island.
Day
Island Park.
Island Park. Day
Island
Island Park.
No,
And
no,
there's a,
not Day Island. That's a different place. Island Park is right next to those two bridges. As you're going into Springfield from Eugene on Franklin Boulevard. Franklin Boulevard actually turns into Main Street.
So it's in that area.
so Ken, I don't know where you're getting your information, but there's actually if you go to the Eugene Plant-Based Providers website and go to upcoming events, and you can, there's a link on our website, the Live Lifestyle Medicine, to that, and it shows you a map and it gives you information and it gives you a place to RSVP, which you don't have to do, but is encouraged to do. But there's a real nice map and a description of the event, and it should be really fun. The group that's doing it, that invited us to join with them, the Eugene Veggies group, it's a local meetup group, and they've been getting together for over 10 years. And JJ says the potluck is a real fun and popular annual event. So we're excited to be part of it as the Eugene Plant-Based Providers group, and really hope to see a lot of everybody on the call.
Have we ever been to the?
I went last
Oh,
summer.
yeah. Have I ever been early?
No.
Yeah, there's a lot more people who are plant-based in Eugene, Springfield that are coming to the classes here. So it's a good way to see that you're not alone, that this is has a broader base than what we have exposure to here in the Zoom room. The other thing thank you, Debbie, for bringing that up and how to find the map and all that other stuff. Eugene Plant-Based Providers is what you look at, and there's a map that you can get. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I'm doing a series for the medical school. It's called Nutrition in Medicine. I'm eliciting speakers. And so who have I got for this coming school year? It's once a month. I'm very excited. The first confirmation who said I'll do it in October is Dr. John McDougall. And so I'm excited that he's going to be talking to the med students. And of course, I'll invite the group here that you can kind of listen in and participate should you choose. Then I have, he was the first confirmation. The second confirmation was Scott Stoll. He is in charge of the Plantrition Project, and they've got a medical school curriculum, which he's going to talk about. So again, another nationally known, world-renowned kind of guy. And then I got another yes from Chef AJ, who was very excited to come and talk about weight loss and give her thoughts on that. So she will be talking. And then I contacted the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine, and Saray Stancic, Dr. Stancic, who actually wrote a book on reversing multiple sclerosis for herself. She's going to be talking March 8th of 2023. And I got a call from the Ornish group just a couple days ago, and they said, so you want Dr. Ornish to talk? I said, yeah. They said, we'll talk to him and see if he'll do a Zoom presentation with you. So that's on the list.
And we're invited to be able to attend. And
yeah, I'll invite you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this is like, I'm so excited, I can hardly stand it.
This is world class.
It's world class. So I thought you might be a little excited about it. I did write to Dr. Bolshevitz, the fiber-fueled guy. I haven't heard from him. I wrote to the Scherzais, their neurologists. I haven't heard back from them, but they did talk before, and they probably will. I've also invited Brooke Goldner, who's the autoimmune, Goodbye Autoimmune Disorder. We'll see if she comes. And I've got a whole list of other people. And Of course, one of the lectures I'm going to do, I think it'll be the first one in September. I wanted to do with Scott and the group here, perhaps, maybe real people, real stories of people who want to share their stories. And I also want to have a couple medical students share their stories for the whole group of medical students who will attend. And it'll probably be 200 plus medical students who will be attending these sessions. So am I excited or what?
Wow, that is amazing, Charlie. That is really amazing.
All it takes is a few little phone calls. I started 2 weeks ago. Just
Wow.
looking around, how do I get the emails? How do I get in touch with these people? So we'll be able to do this. You know, the Zoom has allowed this to happen. But anyway, that's the excitement for tonight.
So do we get to hear some of those talks?
Yes, we'll invite you. You just log into the Zoom session. There will be a password for you and we'll pass it along to you with each session.
Thank you.
And they're free. How great is that? So hang in there. And I love spending the time with you again tonight. It's you know, it's a real joy. I had a wonderful session this afternoon with a group of 8 people. We shared a number of issues. I actually talked about my favorite foods. And those were my favorite foods 10 years ago and why I no longer choose to eat them. The meat, the dairy, the eggs, the protein, and the issues with them. So we had a good session on that. We may do that sometime in the future again for the whole group. Anyway, love that you all were able to come and we will catch you in another week.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're
Thank you,
very
Charlie.
welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie,
you.
very much.
Wonderful week to
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.